Hey MGTOWs, this is Vention. I was just doing a little surfing, and I found a story about a young man, like he's like 18 years old, and he apparently beat his grandmother to death when she hid his beer while he was in the shower, and of course, the corporate media is all penis equals bad. He's evil. He's got a penis, so he's bad. And that is absolutely all there is to it. The grandmother is faultless and above reproach. And the guy is just, is instantaneously out of nowhere 100% bad and no reason for it at all. Right? And now the real story. Chances are, I dug around a little bit, but it's hard to find the other side of the story when everybody in the corporate media and our entire society immediately thinks penis bad, and that is it. That's all there is to it. Evil. He's white and he's evil and he's got a penis and he's bad. So anyway, I can tell you probably what really happened. The old lady was probably a single mother feminist bra burning from the 1950s, raised her daughter to be a real putz, and she's a real piece of shit, and she was probably abusive. And then his mother was abusive, and obviously she doesn't have custody. And when a vagina doesn't have custody of her children, she has got to be so friggin' bad that she has to overcome the entire belief system that women vagina always equals good, right? So she must have been freaking horrid to lose custody and then default the custody to the grandmother who fucked her up in the first place. And of course the father's probably nowhere in sight because she's a feminist and almost certainly didn't need no man, and the result is the kid almost certainly was abused by the cock carousel that she was riding, and then he was totally went freaking completely nuts, and that is almost, and then suddenly he explodes into violence, which is like the last act of desperation, and basically that old bitch who was killed probably, almost certainly, screwed up her daughter and screwed up her grandson, and then she got killed by the result of her misdeeds. Now, I don't know for sure, but man, looking at it through a red pill lens, you really do see a lot just leaping right out at you. With the bias of the corporate media. I mean, it's just, and our entire society. And it's like that whole COVID, oops, I wonder if I'll get demonetized. I'm not monetized. I've had my channel taken down a couple times, and each time it's come back, and I suspect it's because, one, my channel's not monetized, and two, I pay money to them every month for the YouTube Pro subscription, so I don't have to sit through all those friggin' commercials. And the demonetized channels, which are my favorite ones, they still get my AdSense for what it's worth, whatever Google decides to give them, you know. So in any case, yeah, so I suspect that each time my channel is taken down, the people who get the subscription money, that department says, hey, bring him back up, he's paying us. So I suspect that if my channel is taken down, it'll probably come back because money. And it's just one of the ways that the media lies. Back to what I was saying earlier. I have seen it so many times where the corporate media gets a story like somebody did something bad while but actually nobody. Okay, what they do is they take a truth that they want to hide, right? A truth that they want to discredit, right? And then what they do is they mix a lie into the truth, and then they say, it's a lie, it's all false. And then they condemn the entire thing by just that, because of the lie within it, which they put in there. And then the whole thing that is released as a lie. Snopes, that horrible leftist junk website, does that all the time. Henry didn't say that okay. Henry didn't say that feminism wasn't evil, right? And he said it while, and then they can wrap a lie into it. You know, if somebody says feminism isn't evil, right? They can say that Henry never said that feminism was evil. They can say that it didn't happen by adding a lie in there. Henry said, or the story is reported that Henry said that feminism wasn't evil while he was eating an apple, right? And then in the story, he buried in the text, if it's there at all, they say Henry disbelieves in feminism because, and then they say it's false. He didn't say that feminism wasn't evil. And then they can bury it in the text that because he wasn't eating an apple after all. You know, he just said feminism wasn't evil. But they could just, time after time, watch for it. Really watch for it. In every story, every corporate media story you see, watch for it. They take a truth, dump a lie of their own fabrication in there, and then discredit the whole mess and say it's fake when it is quite true. So other than that, as far as the lockdown goes, I don't even feel the lockdown. It's barely changed my lifestyle at all. About the only thing I miss is my barber. I'm starting to get long hair. And I miss, there's a really good steakhouse south of here a ways. What's it called? It's called Ramblin' Jack's Ribeye. And man, is it good! and they have closed because of the lockdown, and that's the only thing I really miss. But the lockdown is causing me problems because I really want to get to one of those southern states and get that PET scan. I mean, I feel amazing. I feel astoundingly awesome. And the symptoms are almost pretty much gone. But the thing is, I can't know for sure until I can get that PET scan, and I can't do that until this friggin' lockdown is done. Because I could be circulating around like Arizona or New Mexico or Texas, looking for like the Flying Dutchman, because a lot of the RV parks are closed and a lot of the infrastructure is closed. I would have nowhere to go, and a lot of the medical establishments are not functioning because everybody's sitting there waiting for the freaking wave of casualties to come in, and that never happened. And about the whole thing that's going on, I am of the opinion that it is vastly overblown. I think it was Italy was reporting that 99% of the deaths were due to other problems, like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and people who have cancer, who allowed the chemo quacks to obliterate their whole friggin' immune system with their chemo. Those people now have compromised immune systems, and some of those people were casualties. Bike riders, that is. Cool. Good to see people out and about and having fun. But basically, and there's some study in California that was recently done that showed that the virus has expanded vastly farther into the population than they think, that they had originally thought. And the result is that pushes the death rate way down below 1%, way less than 1%. And almost all the people involved who really have a problem have other problems, and they had problems before the bug ever hit them. And then on top of that, our whole counting system for how the deaths are counted is all screwed up, because the medical establishment gets money every single time they report a death due to the virus. So that, head injuries and car crashes and cancer, diabetes, whatever, they just say, it's the virus, give me that money. And of course, Snopes says, it's not true. It is not happening because on Tuesday of the 17th, a doctor was walking backwards and then he fell down, and he wasn't labeled a COVID death even though he fell down the stairs and got killed. So therefore, it's all fake. It's all fake. Freaking liars. Man, I hate establishment for-profit liars. And now, on top of that, the FDA has been captured by, of course, the big money profit interests and Bill's massive vaccine profit cash in that he wants to get into. They have got their hooks into the FDA. All these letter organizations, all the government, all the freaking major institutions in the private sector. So much of our leadership is just captured. Those people, they are all part of this freaking club, as as you know who said, and we're not in it. I can't remember that guy's name, that comedian. And it gets even worse and even darker than that, because if you would think that all the super elite, really powerful elite billionaire, millionaires, and upper echelon CEOs, you would think those people are free, but many of them are not. And a lot of those people, it gets really conspiracy-like, and if you can dismiss this if you want, but there's evidence that much of our leadership is part of this evil, dark, horrid, violent, vile cult, full of sacrifice and cannibalism and devil worshipping and every bit of horrendous perversion and hideous, violent, disgusting perversions and twisted obscenities. And they're in it up to their ears. And if they try to get out of it, they've got like control files on them, and they've got, of course, assassins ready to kill them, just like who, Epstein. And those people are really under the thumb of their high priests and whatnot. And and those people, I bet a lot of multi-millionaires and maybe even billionaires would probably quite possibly be quite happy to chuck it all in the bin and go get a job as a convenience store clerk if they could get away without being killed. I suspect a lot of them are in that situation. And man, it kind of makes me want to try to construct some kind of path, some kind of way back for them, if they want to get out of that and start a new life with honorable men among honorable men. There should be a pathway back for them, because a lot of those people, most of them in fact, they were born into that. And they were like 3 years old getting abused up one side and down the other. And it's my opinion that the cult makes them suffer, right? And I suspect that I can relate in a way, because I have suffered too. And the suffering that I have gone through, it's made me vastly more than I would have been if I had not suffered. If you can imagine what it would be like to be a woman, right? Or like in high school and in college and early career, and your every little effort, every little task you try to make, society just clears the pathway and sets things up for you and places everything ready so that you can just easily step into your success, right? And of course they don't have any problems as far as like finding a date or having horrendous sexual cravings without any ability to relieve them. That's acceptable. That, like back in the day, when I was young, they would say, "Do not masturbate," and that you'll grow hair and you're, they just tried to demonize it every bit as they could, and it's a way of forcing and applying real serious pressure to a young man to try to make something of himself so that he can get enough success to attract a vagina into his life and then have that ability to relieve the frickin' pain. And if if a young, and I'm telling you, man, I've been through it. I can't feel it anymore because the monkey's off my back. The addiction is broken. I've reached a level of peace that I never could have predicted before. But in the past, it would be on me all the time, just driving me freaking nuts to try to, do that whole reproduction thing, man. And the pain and the effort and the horrible, horrible loneliness, because sexual starvation is bad enough, but then you got the emotional loneliness and the drive that your physiology and your psychology both put on you to reproduce, right? And that pressure, the agony and the pain and the effort and the years of difficulty, it has caused me to grow in ways that I never would have experienced before. So, geez, get out. Yeah. Bumblebee. They don't sting for shit, basically. They've got a little stinger, and if you really mess with them, they'll try to sting you, but would you please leave me alone? Freaking feminist bee. Anyway, so all of that pain and anguish has caused me to grow in ways that I never would have grown before. And I am more than I would have been before. And it's my theory that all of these elites, right? You hear stories of rich people who have kids who have had their lives on easy mode. Jeez, buddy, leave me alone. They've had their lives on easy mode, like from day one, and they were always treated with respect, and everything was made easy for them. And the result is when it came time for them to move into the career that their ancestors, their father, or whatever had made for them, they were not ready for it. They didn't have anywhere near the they didn't have anywhere near the personal development and the drive and the abilities, the strength of character to handle that, right? And the result is they fail, right? And then it's the whole boss's son routine, right? And I've seen a boss's son in one of my previous diesel shops. He was not even a mechanic, not even close to a mechanic, and yet he was given special privileges and special respect, for being the boss's son. And the result was he was a little putz, and he pushed me a little too far, and I just lost my mind and just gave him a good hard shove, and I said, I am getting sick of your shit, right? And I was like totally red. And he was like, he didn't understand how far he was pushing me for some reason, because I guess he had never been through difficulty of his own, right? And I suspect that a lot of these super elite, rich, billionaire children, multi-generational, how they managed to keep the wealth in the family for generation after generation after generation, when generally that doesn't happen, because a successful father will possibly teach his son, when the business is new, how to run the business and everything. But then the son was never really on the ground floor building that business, and he never really developed. So the result is the father makes the money, and then the son builds it, and then the grandson loses it all. my ancestors, according to family legend, we come from an ancient line of warrior craftsmen from France. And at one time, we were supposedly higher up, like in the upper management of McCormick's Reaper back when it was being reproduced. And it's like a horse-drawn Reaper with that flappity thing that cuts the wheat off. Supposedly we were in that, right? And then my great-great-grandparents totally lost it all. And then my grandfather, was like 11 years old, and then he got an apprenticeship in the railroad, and he managed, because his parents just totally failed him, and he had to start from scratch, from zero money, and start a family of sorts. And then he built a fairly successful family, and he gave his son, one of my uncles, a leg up, and managed to get his son into like the officers and everything of the Air Force or the Army Air Corps. And there was a magnificent moment in our family history when his son had a B-17 bomber. Yeah. Freaking B. Anyway, and my grandfather was the engineer of a train, right? And he was like making his run, and then his son tracked the tracked the plane, right? And they were both screaming along across the plane in formation together. And it was like one of the more magnificent moments of my family history. But basically, it's my opinion that the elites, the super elite wealthy people, they are giving their children, through this cult and the abuse and the pain and the anguish they apply to these defenseless kids, and it causes them to probably gain the strength that much of the same strength that I gained, because through all of that pain and despair and rejection and anguish. And I suspect that that is the functionality, the purpose of that. It's all that abuse is designed, I suspect, as a control mechanism, and it's a way of keeping the money in the family and keeping the next generation from being a bunch of complete losers, right? It's a formula, And it's like Darwinism, the most able families, the families that are able to abuse their children enough so that they gain that extra strength, I guess, to give them enough hardship so that they are able to then handle that horrible Lord of the Flies, dog eat dog society that they've got, that those super elites have got going, right? It takes a lot of strength and twisted personalities in order to be that focused on wealth when you don't need it. Because look at me, right? I've looked at how much money I need, right, to last me until I die, assuming cancer doesn't kill me first. And then what did I do? I stopped. I have no need to build a gigantic business and a gigantic freaking infrastructure and a whole lot of complexity and a lot of activity and paying a lot of taxes and Social Security paperwork and having to bribe know what officials to bribe, because you can't get away without, you can't succeed because all of the regulatory bodies have been captured by the super wealthy, right? So you've got to know who to bribe in order to gain the stamps of approval necessary to run these businesses. It's this whole big, huge thing. And if you don't need to do it, and if you're not driven to do it, you're generally not going to do it. And I am not going to do it. So that is my theory. It's evil and it's horrible. Their whole society just needs to be deleted from the universe. And the few of them who are able to be redeemed, they should be rescued from that mess that they're in and brought back into the company of good men again. Unless they're so far gone that they have done the whole hideous molestations and whatnot that they do. Once you get that far gone, generally you can't come back from that. So yeah, it's a big, ugly, hideous, horrible mess. So in closing, the corporate media lies. So do these regulatory captured outfits like the FDA, all of the three-letter organizations. They are all captured by the elite. They are just run by we are in an oligarchy with a little bit of appearance of democracy or a republic. But then they gave the vote away to people who didn't earn it. So the result was the elites pretty much had to render voting pretty much useless and start selecting candidates and then choosing which ones. Because if they had allowed the freaking voters to actually elect people, we would be stuck with people like Hillary Clinton and that horrible woman, I can't remember her name. But she, all of these leftists, we would be stuck with these people, and then we'd end up in another Soviet Union, and possibly with an instance of French Revolution guillotine action, and they do not want that. So that is what they've got, a tiger by the tail, and they're holding on to it. But man, I want to get rid of those people. And one way of defunding and depowering those people is Bitcoin. Okay, MGTOWs, I'm going to let you go. Oh, one thing I wanted to quickly cover as well. I just wanted to reiterate the corporate media lies. And when they lie, they oftentimes take a truth, mix a little bit of lie in it, and then say the whole mess is a lie. Snopes does that all the time. Okay, MGTOWs. Cheers, as Sandman says. And don't get married.